Waxy. I hope you're all having an amazing day. In this video for my Welcome to the Wax World series, we are going to be discussing all things wax warmers. So we're going to talk all about the different types of warmers you may come across and the benefits. We're also going to be talking about the different types of wax that you may see, whether that be in the retail wax world or the vendor wax world, and the types of warmers that maybe you should be using for those types of wax melts. We are also going to be talking about chopping wax today and filling your dishes with wax. We're also going to be talking about changing your wax warmers. And I am so excited because this video is going to be a little lengthy, but a very informative and hopefully very helpful video for you guys. If there's anything that you guys have a different experience with that you want to share in the comments below, please feel free. I love talking to you guys. So before I dive into the actual wax warmers and wax melters, I feel like it's important to touch upon the different types of wax melts that you might come across. So there are a handful of different types of wax melts. You might see beeswax, you might see soy, paraffin. I know they have gel, parasoy. I feel like specifically it is most common that you will see the soy wax melts, the parasoy wax melts, or the paraffin wax melts in the wax community journey. That's not to say that you won't, of course, see other types, but the ones that I'm going to specifically talk about in this video will be those three. So something that's important to note when you are choosing a wax warmer is to think about the type of wax melts that you are going to be purchasing. So if you are purchasing from a vendor and their blend is made up mostly of soy wax, then you are going to be probably you're probably going to be safe for choosing a wax warmer that has a lower wattage, because the soy wax does not need a very high melting point. It can melt at a lower temperature because it is a softer formula. However, the further up you move to paraffin wax, the higher the melting point needs to be, the higher the temperature or the higher the wattage needs to be, because that wax, paraffin wax, is a very hard wax and it needs a strong heat source to melt that wax. If you are choosing a parasoy wax melt, then you're probably going to be safe to kind of get any type of wax warmer for the most part, because that wax will not be like overly hard or overly soft. However, it really, really varies from vendor to vendor. So when it comes to purchasing a wax warmer, you are going to have an endless amount of options. To break it down into the main different types of wax warmers you might come across, there are, first and foremost, there are tea light warmers. So this is a tea light warmer here. This is actually a tea light warmer that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. This was literally just $1, which now would be a little bit more than $1, but they are incredibly affordable. So if you are balling on a budget, then this is the place to go. This is the place to get this wax warmer. It works amazing. You just put a little tea light in the bottom, and the heat from the flame of this candle will warm the wax that is placed into this dish, and it will melt it and it will scent your home. Of course, the downfall to a tea light warmer is that it kind of takes away the point of not having an open flame, because there is an open flame, so you are going to have to be a little bit careful. You're not going to have to worry about tunneling or babysitting a candle, but you will have to babysit this in terms of like you won't want to leave your house and leave an open flame going. So there's definitely pluses and minuses to this. Another type of tea light warmer that you might see is this type of tea light warmer. So it's a bit of a different style, but this one also works great. This one I picked up at Yankee Candle. It's an awesome tea light warmer, and the big plus of tea light warmers is they work for any type of wax. So soy, parasoy, paraffin, it will melt anything because the flame is going to be a very strong heat source. It will melt pretty much anything. And if you are having trouble with throw and performance of your wax, try it in a tea light. That is always my go-to tip. One more thing to touch on with tea light warmers is there are a ton of really cool looking tea light warmers. I've seen a huge trend in like really artistic tea light warmers. So if you do have a tea light warmer and it's kind of more open to the bottom, it doesn't have a contained kind of area for the heat to travel, and it's a little bit more open, then sometimes, especially if you place that tea light warmer near a draft, it can make it so that wax is not going to do its job properly. It's not going to be able to fully heat the wax above and melt it. And that kind of goes for across the board with all of your wax warmers. Placement is really key in your home. And that's a big thing that I noticed when I first started melting wax, is it really helps to not place your warmers near like an area that is commonly passed through or where there might be a draft. If you put your warmers somewhere that it's going to be a little bit less of a high traffic area, then it might help a little bit more to perform. Totally my experience. You guys might have a different experience there. So something that I would definitely advise is to find a tea light warmer that has somewhat of a good contained area for that heat to really melt the wax. You definitely can get really cool, like artistic looking ones. I think those are awesome, but it just might not melt your wax as well as something that's a little bit more contained like this would. So moving you guys over to the other option of warmers, you will find mostly like two types. So these are all electric warmers. They are all plugged into your wall and there's no flames for these warmers, which is a huge benefit. But these can be broken down into like two different types. There are hot plate warmers and then there are bulb warmers. So you might also commonly see hot plate warmers called element warmers. That's another name that you might hear for them. I think especially on the Scentsy website, they call their hot plate warmers element warmers. So this warmer here is actually a Yankee Candle centerpiece warmer, and this one does come with a very specific type of dish. So to show you guys, this is what the inside of a Yankee Candle centerpiece warmer looks like. It's almost like a domed kind of quality here. And this actually heats up, so this gets quite hot. And the wattage is found on the bottom of this warmer here. This is a 13 watt hot plate warmer. So I love the centerpiece warmers. I have this in my bedroom currently. It does an amazing job in there. However, because this is a lower wattage warmer, it does not do well with harder wax, meaning paraffin wax, or even if there is a para soy blend that is a vendor that is a little bit harder to cut. This warmer, in my opinion, does amazing with very, very soft fender wax. It does great with Scentsy wax, which is also on the softer side. It does awesome with Teddy Bees. So this one's awesome. And I also love that this dish, you can, of course, it does come, they sell these dishes, so you have to use a Yankee Candle centerpiece cup in it because of that domed kind of shape that it has. But it's awesome because once I am finished with the wax in here, I will use one of the wax methods that I'll share with you guys in a second to pop it out and replace it with any type of wax that I want to after that. So moving on to these warmers here, these are also both hot plate warmers or element warmers, whatever you guys want to call these, but these are a bit of a different style. So this one here I got from candlewarmers.com. I highly recommend this specific type of warmer. This is a 20 watt, so it does get very, very hot, and the lid is removable. So you can actually place a large 3-wick Bath & Body Works candle on it or a large Yankee Candle jar right on here, and it will heat and melt your wax this way. This warmer does absolutely amazing with any type of wax. It really is so strong that it melts anything. So highly recommend this one. This I think would be my personal, like if I had to give you guys one to go out and buy, I would say the candle warmers, specifically 2-in-1. The one with the hot plate on the bottom is the kind that I would definitely recommend for you guys to check out. It is an amazing performer. I love that you can melt a candle on top, and this dish is nice and wide, so you can add a little bit extra cubage, a little bit more wax to the dish, and it will last a little bit longer that way. This warmer here I picked up at Walmart. This one has a removable dish as well. A lot of people have asked me questions about this warmer. I got this at Walmart. It is a, I believe it's a 20 watt as well. I'm gonna have to double check on that. This one does do pretty well, but because the actual hot plate source is smaller than the actual dish itself, like you can see, it's a little bit more raised there. You really have to make sure not to overflow this dish because it might not fully pool out all the way because it is overflowing. And then finally, moving on to these last warmers. This one here is, I'm not gonna take the lid off because when I was bringing it over, I actually broke the pug's head, which I am devastated about. If you guys know where I can get a replacement pug head, please let me know in the comments below. This one here is a Scentsy element warmer, which is also a hot plate warmer. Let's see if I can actually take it off very carefully. This one does have scent for it to escape out of. However, this one is a very, very low wattage warmer. This one here is an 8-watt hot plate warmer. And because it is such a low wattage, it really struggles with performance. So this one is pretty much decorative. Of course, when I was carrying him over, I dropped it with my clumsy hands. So that's a big bummer. But as far as performance, this one would only really do well with probably like very soft Scentsy, like Scentsy wax. It's made for Scentsy warmer, of course. It's a Scentsy warmer, of course. It's made for Scentsy wax, but very soft soy wax or like Teddy Bees or something like that. That would be probably okay. But it doesn't work very well for me. And then finally, to wrap it up with the different types of warmers, this one here is a bulb warmer. This is specifically a 25-watt bulb warmer. So it is a very strong, good performer. And this one is heated through a light bulb. So if you guys can see that down in there, it is literally just a 25-watt light bulb that you screw into this base and you place the warmer on top, the dish on top, and it warms it that way. So just to quickly touch on the different types of wax forms that you may see, especially in vendor wax form, but in retail wax as well. So like I mentioned in my first video, retail wax, you are most commonly going to see the wax come in a clamshell. This is what a clamshell looks like. And when you want to use a bit of wax from the clamshell, you just pop it out and you break it in half or in, whatever the amount that you want. I personally would suggest never using more than 2 cubes of a clamshell at a time. And when it comes to my vendor wax, I try to kind of do the same amount that I would do of either 1 cube of a clamshell or 2 cubes of a clamshell. That's kind of how I measure out the amount of wax that I am putting in my dish. I know it is definitely easy to, at least for me when I first started melting, I really thought you just put this whole thing. I had no idea. I didn't know that you even needed to cut wax. I thought you just put this entire muffin into the wax warmer. However, the more wax that you add to a wax warmer, the more difficult that fragrance oil is going to have to burn out and actually produce a fragrance, because it is going to struggle to pool out. The wax isn't going to be hot enough for that scent to evaporate and really produce a nice, smell or throw. So you're actually going to be kind of hurting yourself by putting more into the warmer. And another thing that's really important to touch on, which we will talk about in just a second when it comes to changing the wax, is to make sure that you are never adding like new wax to the old wax. So if you had put part of this in your warmer, it melted, it did its job, it smelled beautiful, and then the next day you went and you wanted to have the same scent again, you would definitely have to make sure you're changing out the wax, you're dumping it out, and I'll show you guys all the different methods of that before you're adding in newer wax. Because if you add new wax to old wax, even if it's the same scent, you are not going to be helping the wax. You're actually going to make it harder for that fragrance oil to escape and produce scent. So a couple different forms that you might see wax in is you might see breakaway bars like this, where you can just snap off a piece and throw it into the melter. Typically I would do like 2 pieces with this or 1. You might see this type that is already chopped up for you, so you would just throw 1 piece into your warmer that way. You might see things that you need to chop yourself, so you might see really fun shapes like this. You might see mini muffins. You also might see souffle cups that are like a circular cup, or you might see loaves like this, which is a very large shape of wax. And you also might see different things like this, like little small cups. Sometimes you can see 1-ounce scent shot cups. Those I would entirely put into the warmer. You might see 2-ounce scent shot cups. These I would personally cut in half. And then you also might see scoopables, which these ones are always a little bit tricky. I definitely suggest doing a little playing around to see how much of, different companies have different amounts. That kind of, it varies how much you should be putting in your warmers with scoopables. But these are a very soft form of wax that you literally use a spoon and you scoop it out and put it in your warmer that way. So before we dive into actually changing the wax melts out, I think it's important to show you guys some tools of the trade. These you can often get at like Amazon or online. I think some vendors carry these as well. This I got at Dollar Tree. This is just like a cheese cutter, I think. or like a food scraper, and this one does an amazing job of chopping up my wax. And this one here is like a crinkle cutter, and this one also does an amazing job of chopping up smaller pieces of wax. This one I typically use for like my loaves, and this one I'll use for like my shapes and whatnot. And something that I have found to be extremely helpful is when it comes to a wax cutting board is to, of course, you should designate, you should not be mixing like your wax and your food you're eating, like the things you're eating off of. I think it's important to kind of designate like all your different stuff. Chopping wax, I just lay down like a paper towel. If anything gets underneath this, then I can literally just take a blow dryer on warm, heat it up a little bit and wipe it right off, and the wax will come like right off like that. So when it comes to accidents, if you spill anything, always go to a hair dryer and some paper towels. It will save the day for sure. So just to show you guys kind of how I would chop, Rose Girls Mini Muffins, I know a lot of people actually just use a fork, and sometimes I use a fork as well. But just to show you the difference of the kind of pressure that you have to put onto it, whereas this one might chop smoothly and you don't really need a whole lot of pressure to it. It's kind of soft. You can really see that there. I would chop this one like into fourths, probably. That's about what I would do for this one. When it comes to this, it might be a little bit more tricky, and especially if you have like a loaf or anything, like a larger size, it might help to microwave this if it is getting too hard for you to chop it and it starts to kind of crumble. So for example, like if I chop this, it might kind of shatter a little bit more. So you can kind of see that right there. It does break apart a little bit more. It really doesn't make that big of a difference, but if you guys do want smoother lines and, you know, smoother pieces, it might help to throw it in the microwave on like a lower cook power, like a lower temperature for like 15 to 30 seconds. It might help you. If you guys are a little bit more, you want the bags to be a little bit more like neater and the cuts to be a little bit more clean. Totally personal preference. It really doesn't matter, but so this is about the size that I would pop into a warmer. Okay, so now let's really quickly talk about changing out your wax. So there are a few different methods that you can use. When it comes to tea light warmers, because of the power behind the heat of the flame, you can really change these out super quickly. And it is literally just done by just turning on, lighting up your candle, your tea light. You will pop this into the bottom, place everything back together, and then it will heat up so quickly that you can literally, I mean, just push the wax out. It'll take just a second, but I'll show you guys. I won't do any cuts. I'll show you guys when I can pop this out. It'll be super quick. Another thing that you can do is the ice cube method, and I don't see this a lot, but it does work. So I will show you guys with this tray here. You just put 1 or 2 ice cubes on it, and the wax itself, you might actually see this happen a lot with like if you get Bath and Body Works candles shipped to you in the winter time, the candle itself will contract because of the cold, and the wax will actually be like loose from the jar. So what you're doing with this method is you are just helping the wax contract so you can pop it out of the actual melter dish. And then in the same kind of realm as this ice cube method, if you guys don't want to waste ice cubes, then you can literally just go ahead and take this entire tray and put it into your freezer. It only takes about 15 minutes. And because of the cold contracting the wax within the dish, it will pop right out. I actually do this when I empty out my candle jars after I use them. I put them in the freezer for 15 minutes to whenever I want to take them out. It's like the longer you leave it in, just the easier it's going to be to pop it out. And then I tip it over and I just tap the bottom a few times and the wax pops right out. And then if you guys want to, you can always use the wax from the bottom of the candle jars in your melters as well. So it kind of helps. That's a big benefit. Let's see if this is loose yet. So here we go. Let me see if I can show you guys. It's pretty crazy how this happens. So all you do is you literally just push one side and it pops right out. That is literally all it takes if you want to change your warmer from a tea light. You can absolutely still do this method with your hot plate warmers. It just might take a little bit longer for that hot plate to heat up so you can pop it out. But because the tea light is so strong, it just pops it right out. Another thing that I have found to be extremely helpful when it comes to changing wax is you can absolutely use a dish like this, or you can use something like this, these silicone liners, and you can keep yourself like one step ahead of the game and, you know, take this, put it in the freezer so you can change the wax out, and then just go ahead and pop some new wax into there and place it on there and warm your wax that way. So that's another plus. This specific thing, I think I just picked up at Walmart. It's like a food dish thing. But you can also get like metal liners. You can use silicone liners. And then when you are done, you can literally just pop the wax right out of this and replace it. You can use these within your dishes if you want. Like you can have it like this. They make wider ones if you want. They have reusable ones online. The only downfall of this is it does get kind of a little bit messy on the bottom. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. It gets like kind of like this weird flakiness. It's really not that big of a deal, but that's just something to note. All right, so this ice cube has been sitting in there for probably like, I don't know, maybe 7 minutes now. And let me just take this out. I literally just pushed on it and it popped, and that's it. That's like literally all it takes. So if you guys want to try this method, it's definitely a very interesting one. The only downfall is, of course, there's a little bit of liquid, but that's nothing a little wipe down or a little, you know, dry down can't fix. Another thing you guys might come across when it comes to melting wax is that it is extremely common for your dishes to become stained. This dish used to be pristine shape, and because I have used it so many times, it's really become pretty messy. If you have a dish that is stained and you want to lift that stain, all it takes is a little bit of rubbing alcohol, or you can also use hand sanitizer. And I really like the spray form because it kind of coats the dish in a nice way. And then you just take a cotton swab and you wipe it out, and it is good as new. So before the sun completely sets on me, there are 2 more methods that you guys might see, and one that I use very often is the like hot dump method. It's a bit strange of a name, but it definitely works. So what I do when it comes to changing out my wax is I will literally just take 2 cotton balls, one on each side. I lift it and then I just pour out my wax that way. And then I take the one on this side and I kind of wipe it clean. This might be a little bit odd to some of you guys, but it totally works, and then your dish is just nice and clean. So that is one option. And then the other option, of course, is if you have a full liquid pool, so let it completely heat up all the way, you can literally just place cotton balls in the dish, let the wax be soaked up in the cotton balls, and then carefully, because it will be hot, you can either use tweezers. I've seen a lot of people use tweezers. I mean, I think I've numbed my fingers over the years of doing this so much, but I just take it and I just kind of pop it out and I just put it into here. You guys also might be thinking, Alexis, what the heck is this? And I will explain. Because I use the hot dump method so much, I kind of found a container that's actually amazing. This is a container that I got at Walmart. It actually had some of those like individual packet, like water flavoring packets in it. Like I think it's like the whatever the main Walmart brand is. I just peeled off the packaging, and then because this is like a very tall, you know, shape here, it fits a ton of wax. You guys can see the cotton balls and all the wax that I have in here. And then once this is full, I turn it upside down, and because this is a kind of a soft plastic material, I can just push my thumb on the bottom of this and it pops the wax right out, and then I just chuck it. I know a lot of people also use their wax-soaked cotton balls for fire starters. That's extremely awesome because then you're, you know, melting the wax and burning it away, so it's not as much waste. Totally applaud you guys if you do that. I definitely should be doing that, but this is something that I found works really well. Yeah, so that's just one option. So there you guys have it. You can do the hot dump where you literally just pour it out. I like to do the cotton balls on each side, and then whatever cotton ball I didn't use to wipe the dish, I just put back in my cotton ball dish holder. You can do the cotton ball where you just soak it up and then put them out. Of course, you would need some kind of container to put the cotton balls in. So that is where this comes in a bit handy, and I actually tucked this behind picture frames in my house so it's hidden. You can do the ice cube method where the wax is contracted and you can pop it out that way. You can do the freezer method where you put it in the freezer for you know, 15 to 30 minutes and then it pops out that way. You can do the slip and slide method where you let it heat up just a little bit and then push your thumb and it kind of pops right out. You have to do that right when you turn on the warmer. Not right when you turn on, but you know, once it's soft to push. Yeah, and if there are maybe some other methods I don't know about, if you guys have other methods, please share them below. I am so curious. Yeah, and you can also do the switcheroo kind of method where you just use one of these in replacement of your dishes that way. So there are endless options to changing your wax. But I hope you guys found this video very informative. Thank you so much for joining me tonight in my kitchen, kind of a different area. And I really appreciate you guys all tuning into the series. I hope you're all doing well, having an amazing day. Take care. Bye, guys.